Really not.
Bumping into the camera. Okay, so I've got, can you see me still? I've suddenly got a message.
Yep, terrific.
Oil bread, 120 grams of it, and I'm pouring cold water on it just to soak it.
Sophie, everyone has the recipe, and of course a lot of people have got the book anyway, so we're following what you're doing, and it's looking great. We can see exactly what you're doing.
Excellent. So there we go. I've got my bread just soaking there. I might have to stand up soon, and while that's soaking, I'm just moving that bowl out of the way, and I'm going to chop some parsley and some garlic. So one of the things that's interesting down here is that really the most important herb is parsley. So in the summer you get parsley, you get basil and mint a lot, but parsley just reigns supreme throughout the year. And in the winter you get more thyme, a little bit of sage coming in, and rosemary, but really it's parsley. And one of the things I love, and this is true in other countries as well, but one of the things I love here is that when you go to the market or to the greengrocers, you get given a little bunch of parsley at the end for free. So parsley is something which is just it's just ubiquitous. I love that habit of just, can I have some parsley? Oh yeah, here's a handful. That's great. So roughly chopped parsley, that's going into my bowl. Oh, we've got wind. It's very windy in Puglia. I like that, especially when it's hot in the summer. It's fantastic. And basically in Puglia, you get two main winds, and I've got a wasp in my cheese. Go away, wasp. You get two main winds. You get the Scirocco, which comes over the Mediterranean from Africa, and often brings sand in with it, and it's slightly humid because it's come across the sea and it picks up moisture on its way. And you get the Tramontana, which comes from the north, which is very cold. But anyway, sorry, back to my recipe.
Sophie, you're outdoors. Is this an outdoor kitchen that you're in? Are you outdoors?
I am outdoors, yes. Yeah. And I'm actually not at my house because I'm at my friend, a lovely house that I really envy. She might find me moving in. I'm at a friend's house because, and this is part of the joy of Puglia, Wi-Fi is pretty abysmal down here, but I was going to do this from my kitchen, and what happened? A, the Wi-Fi went down, and then B, the electricity went off. So I have no electricity at home until at least 4 o'clock. So I've got a bit of garlic here, and I might have to stand up to do this, in which case, yeah, I'm going to, because I can't do this sitting down. So you'll just see my midriff. Sorry, guys.
We can see you.
So I'm just crushing some garlic to put in it. So garlic is used quite a lot, although I think it's one of these interesting things is that Italians think the British use far too much garlic. Isn't that funny? Having gone from a country where there was once suspicious of garlic, we now chuck it in with gay abandon. And sometimes I have Italian friends who look at me making something saying, but why don't you should put the garlic into the oil at the beginning, at whole, and then hoik it out once it's given a delicate perfume to it. And I say, well, I like garlic. I'm British. Anyway, this was a very big clove, so I'm just going to do a little.
I've got a theory, Sophie, that you get immune to garlic after a time. You stop tasting it fully. It becomes a background flavour, and so you could end up putting an awful lot of garlic in things and not really getting the benefit.
That's true. I've never thought about that. You might be right. I mean, I do. I love it. So, but can you remedy that? Or should you do something? You know, people who don't have salt in the food often say you've got realizing after, and I can't bear the thought of not having salt in my food, but yeah.
Well, maybe someone in chat will tell us what the answer is, but it would be possible just to be more careful about when I use it, because like you, I use it copiously and probably not getting the excitement. I remember when I was a kid how exciting it was to get garlic in something.
That's probably true, actually. Now I'm Orlando and everybody watching. I'm just going back to the bread, and a bit messy, but it's fine. You need to squeeze out the water as hard as you can and add that to the bowl. So this method of softening the bread is used in lots and lots of Pugliese recipes. I guess because in the past making breadcrumbs would have been kind of tricky, wouldn't it? Without a processor to whiz up your breadcrumbs, this was probably the
And
easiest,
you've kept the
simplest
crusts
way.
on. Sophie, you kept the crusts on, have you? You kept the
No,
crust.
I've got crust in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually taking off bits of the crust because it hasn't quite soaked enough yet, and I don't want it to be too large chunks. But no, I'm leaving the crust on. Nothing goes to waste, and it adds actually quite nice flavour, just a little bit of extra flavour to the mix.
And good local bread. Do you have a good choice of bread, or is it kind of one sort of bread or nothing?
Well, in Chegno we have one really cracking baker. It's a lovely bakery. It's the lovely Forno San Lorenzo. And then we have lots of other bakers that are okay. I have to say, I think it's actually bread is one of Italy's kind of Achilles heels, really. A lot of Italian bread is really heavy and not particularly great. Or you get little rolls that are kind of with a tough outside, not crisp outside, but a tough outside, and then a rather kind of airy polystyrene filling. So Italy has produced great breads, obviously ciabatta, which is relatively modern, and focaccia, which is ubiquitous. Different kinds of focaccia everywhere, but focaccia is a very popular one. But the best bread down here comes from a place called Altamura, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, further north from here, and they're famous for their bread, and they do have wonderful bread. So that's another of Italy's great bread. There's an awful lot of terrible bread in Italy. Sorry, Italy, I love you very much, but it's true. Right, so I've got
People make bread at home, Sophie. Do the Italians make bread at home?
a lot do, but you can also buy your dough ready-made from the supermarket, which I love. You see it in packets, and it's trying to rise, and it's constrained within the plastic, and it's bulging. Brilliant. Right, and now I'm going to add some eggs. Usually it's 4 or 5 go into this. And I'm also going to turn on the heat under my oil.
So we've got a great campaign going in England now to use medium eggs rather than large, just so you know. Better for the hens, but also better for the farmers, and they're better eggs as well. But that is just out of interest.
I'll back there. I'm fascinated by this. I've always used large eggs. Do you mean I've been making it? I'm just suddenly I've got this image of 4 chickens just squeezing really hard. I mean, I'm sorry, why is it better for the chickens?
That's the problem. I'll send you, we had a great talk, we had a great guild talk about it, and the British Hen Welfare Trust came on and just explained to us that it was better all round if we could choose mixed weight eggs or medium eggs. So I've done the switch, and I think a lot of people have done the switch, but I'm just dropping that in there because you might as well know that in England now, large eggs are slightly frowned upon by recipe writers.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I shall, well, here you don't really have any choice, so that's fine. You get what you're given here. So you've got a funny buzzing noise. That's my little induction hob doing its thing, I hope. Okay, so I put in 4 medium-ish eggs then, Orlando. You could go.
Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Pepper, the more the merrier. There we go. So this mixture is it's kind of a really critical one. Basic same mixture, give or take the consistency. You might add more eggs or less eggs, slightly more cheese, slightly less bread. Is used in other ways as well. So it's with extra eggs added and lots of veg added. It's used as a basis for a frittata down here, with slightly more cheese and slightly more. With more cheese and less bread. It's also used as a. Oh, I'm going to need another medium egg. In there goes. It's also used as a sort of filling, so you'll get artichokes. May get this on the top, or courgettes. I did the other day with courgettes, and that was really, really nice. baked on top. So it's a kind of really useful basic thing in a Puglian kitchen. So I'm just mashing it all up together, trying to break up the crusts as much as I can. And I've got I don't know if you can see, but it's
Sophie,
kind
will
of
you show us the bowl and show us how the dropping kind of consistency? Yeah,
okay.
great. So it's quite heavy and sticky, isn't it?
It's quite heavy and sticky. You don't want it too wet. You don't want it too thin. So this is middling. My machine is making odd noises. I'm not quite sure why. Okay. I'm working on it with a new hob. And I really have no idea what I'm doing.
Sophie, don't worry. We all know about the perils of unknown induction hobs. We've all crossed that terrible barrier into the beyond.
Anyway, guys, there you go. So that's the mixture. And you just need to mush up all the bits of bread. And they mush up pretty easily, actually. And mush up as much of the crust as you can. And then, really over here, I have got, oh, that's going to blow away. So I need to put something on it. There we go. I'm just going to take a couple of spoonfuls of
you know that cactus looks a bit perilous there, Sophie. The cactus, you're not going to bump into that cactus and have to go off and go to A&E, are you?
What, me or the cactus? Sorry, I couldn't catch it quite.
It looks a bit lethal there. It's out of range, is it?
I think I'm fine. I'm not actually going to bump into it.
Good.
I like my cactus.
Oh, it's
So,
beautiful, but I was doing health and safety.
Sorry?
I was doing health and safety.
Oh, yeah. I've got a friend who's on the case, but it's further away than it looks on screen. So with this mix, you can either put spoonfuls in, or you can make it just about form them into a ball, into the hot oil. Ooh, lots of sizzling.
Can we see that? Can we just see it in your hand before you put it in? Do you roll it or just put it there?
Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah. So you're not patting it into shape. You're just putting it in your hand and dropping it in, really.
Oh, you can make them perfect and round, but I think they're nicer and they're slightly craggy, so you get more crisp on the outside, more brown, and a slightly more. And then a soft inside. The inside is really a bit like a savoury version of French toast.
Gorgeous.
So there we go. There's another one going in. Ooh, they are smelling good. I hope people are doing this at home and getting that lovely, lovely smell. So cheesy, frying-y, gorgeous scent wafting out.
So you've got about 10 in at the moment, or a dozen. How many have you got in the pot?
Orlando, it is frying so happily here that I can't hear a word you're saying.
How many would you put in the pot at once?
I think it depends on how much oil there is and how wide your pot is. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to put 7 or 8 in. But it very much depends on what you're cooking with, and if you've got a proper deep fat fryer, you might be able to get a couple more in. But as always, you don't want to overcrowd the pan. I think that'll do nicely. I've now got the muckiest hands in the world.
What depth of oil have you got in your pan, Sophie? Oh, good.
Right, okay, these are, oh, I got it, they're doing really well. Let's give them a little turn.
Sophie, what depth of oil have you got in your pan, roughly? What depth of oil have you got in your pan, roughly?
It's just sunflower oil. We have oil in a second, but I just think these are nearly done. So let me don't again. I'm not. Wait a second. Let's get this over there. These are looking glorious.
Oh, aren't they pretty?
Pauline's also asking what sort of oil you're using, Sophie.
It's sunflower oil. And now that I've put these off, I'm just going to stop there because otherwise I will never hear another word that anybody is saying. So I'm going to sit down, contemplate the beauty of my polpette di pane. But they look nice. Here's the sunflower oil here. Obviously, there is a huge amount of olive oil around here. It's one of the joys of being down here. Do you know, I don't want to show off about this, but I haven't actually had to pay for olive oil for a year now, because people keep giving it to me. I don't have my own olive trees, but when it comes to olive harvest, I'm prepared to volunteer for a day or two, and I get paid in oil. Seems a very reasonable exchange.
What? So you go and pick the olives?
Yeah, I'll go and pick the olives with friends' olives. Because the olive tree is. I mean, this is true of all the Mediterranean in some ways, but in Puglia, the olive tree and olives are so crucial to the culture, to the soul, I think. And the Pugliese emblem, crest, or whatever, actually has an olive tree in the middle. An olive tree, and then above there's the crown of Frederick II, the Prince of Apulia, who was meant to be an incredibly wise medieval ruler, who adored Puglia. But anyway, the olive tree is absolutely fundamental. One of the sad things, though, is we have this appalling disease of olive tree disease called Xylella, which is just ravaging trees of Puglia. I'm quieter now, that's better. And that's really, really dispiriting.
I was going to ask about that because we've heard about the olive disease. I mean, there seem to be quite a few tree diseases come to get us at the moment, don't there, with the ash trees and others. That must be very upsetting for poor old Puglia, because are they having to dig them up and replace them, or what? Or just dig them up?
They're not, I think now, I'm trying to remember what the law is now. Initially, when it started, or when it really took hold, they were trying to dig them up, and they were trying to have sort of barrier areas where you couldn't plant new trees, but it hasn't worked because it's a bacterial disease, but it's borne by insects. So really trying to stop insects being insects is impossible unless you kill them. And I don't quite understand why they haven't developed something that kills the insect quite more quickly. But anyway, they haven't yet. And it's when I was just down last weekend, I was down a little bit further south from here. We're not where I am in the Valle d'Istria, which is in the center of Puglia. The disease is just beginning to take hold. Yeah. You're beginning to see trees with brown branches, and it's horrible. But when you go further south, I was down near Lecce in beautiful Lecce in the south, and there are areas which are like war zones. It's like some appalling nuclear bomb has happened and just killed off all the trees, and you see these gaunt shadows of trees stretching as far as
terrible. Yeah.
Terrible. And I don't really understand. It's been around for at least 7 years, 8 years now, and money has been thrown in. There are people doing research, but to be honest, I don't know quite what's happened to all the money, because I would have thought 7 years in they could have found some way of controlling it, but they seem not to have done yet.
I'm sure they're trying, Sophie, but these tree diseases seem to be terrible, because we had we've had oak, we lost all the elms, didn't we, in the 70s, and now we're stricken with ashes. I think they just find tree diseases very difficult. Maybe someone in chat will know what's happening about the research for that. The polpetti look absolutely beautiful. Do you let them cool a bit before you eat them, or should they be eaten burningly hot from the pan?
Not burningly hot. They should be eaten about now, I'd have said.
And you wouldn't dip them?
Can I just check that it's all right? Oh, yeah. Definitely all right. Really nice, actually. Very lovely.
And you wouldn't do a sprinkle of salt on them or anything else? You just serve them au nature?
No. Usually I find that I put Parmesan in the mucus pecorino or a mixture of them. And usually I find there's so much cheese in here, you don't need to put any salt in at all. I mean, it was a little bit with the garlic, but not much. I did make some last week where I actually did salt them at the end, but I wouldn't salt them until add salt until they're cooked and you've had time to test one, because they don't usually need it. And then one of the things that's great about these, I mean, the delicious as they are, but they're also used with pasta. So you'll get there's a pasta dish where orecchiette, which is the little ear-shaped pasta, which is Puglia's favorite, I think, and it's served with these cooked in a tomato sauce, so they kind of go soggy, which at first you might think, oh, a bit weird, but actually it's really, really good. And you serve, you simmer the polpetta in the tomato sauce, and then you take them out. If you're doing it properly, you take them out, and they actually get served on the side or after the pasta, almost as if it was a meat course. They're very good.
So with that pasta dish, do you deep fry them and then put them in the tomato sauce, or they just go, they're cooked in the tomato sauce? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess again, it'll be, you'd make quite a lot. You'd eat them hot like this, freshly cooked one day, and you'd use up the leftovers next day or later that day, whatever, with your pasta. So it kind of, again, it's about stretching food, making small amounts of the relatively cheap stuff. The cheese is the only expensive thing really in here, and stretching it out as much as you can.
Sophie, I'm going to hand over to Sam and questions in a moment, but will you tell us about your other activities that you're doing in Puglia, because you've got quite a few strings to your bow, haven't you?
I have got a few strings to my bow, and so this summer has been our first proper summer with my little, we're not actually a company, my little sort of catering outfit, which is me and my lovely friend Rona, So we're called Truly Delicious, for those who might be coming to Puglia, trulydelicious.com. And we've been catering and cooking mostly Puglian food for holiday making. It was an odd year to start, really. We don't have no Americans, very few. But we've been cooking around Puglia for people who are on holiday, who own houses here. And it's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic, very successful. And then we also, as we go into winter and there's less call for people to go out and cook in holiday homes and whatever, we're reversing to our online classes, and there'll be a new schedule going up within the next week, I would imagine. And online classes, so you can join in and learn more about Puglian cooking, which is great. And one of the ones that I really like, Orlando, is making focaccia barese. So this is the kind of focaccia that's made in Bari. One of the things I've learned now is there is no such thing as just focaccia. Focaccia was made in different ways in every single town, but the focaccia barese has tomatoes on it. It's very, very oily as opposed to oily, and usually black olives and oregano. Fantastic. Hello, are we there?
Yeah, sorry, you've gone a bit quiet. I missed it. I missed that last sentence, Sophie. Can you just say something to reassure me? I'm still here, and I'm still testing polpetta di pane, and I'll check that it still tastes good as well. Fantastic. Well, good luck with Truly Delicious. Can you imagine what a fantastic holiday? You must make people's holiday with you cooking for them. They're very lucky. I hope you charge them lots of money for that. Lots and lots.
Quite a lot. I don't want to be mean. We're not the cheapest, but we are the best, obviously.
Obviously. Well, we must do everything in the guild to make sure that Truly Delicious word is spread on your behalf. And good luck with it. It's lovely to see you, but I'm now going to hand over to Sam Bilton to ask you questions from the group. By the way, everyone, we're 50 people, so it's one of our most sold out events ever. Thank you, Sophie, so much.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm very hungry now. I wish I had decided to make them, but as I say, my AV requirements or things in the kitchen wouldn't work very well. So anyway, question number one came from Anne. She was asking whether the food habits have changed in Puglia. And I don't know whether you want to add anything to that, or it was.
I mean, they have and they haven't, I think, is the not very helpful answer. The traditional dishes and traditional foods are still very, very strong. People love them. you will sit. I've sat in. I have a great little cafe on the corner of my street, which is very much a workman's cafe, and I've sat there and listened to these guys who are coming in for, you know, builders, decorators, whatever, and they sit there and they discuss how a dish should be made, how a particular traditional dish, and whether you should add this. I doubt they ever cook it. I'm assuming it's probably their mum or their girlfriend or their wives who are cooking it, but they have opinions on these traditional things. So in some ways they're very traditional, but you know, the world is changing. Women don't want to be, quite rightly, don't want to be stuck at home only doing housework and cooking for their men, and young women are not cooking as much, and but maybe are cooking more. So that would be a nice thought. So there are changes, and you know, you get people shop in the supermarkets. I mean, this is a real place. It's not some sort of Shangri-La, foodie Shangri-La. It's you know, you can buy your passata ready-made, and people do, instead of somebody making it all in the summer when tomatoes are at their cheapest, no, you buy the ready-made stuff, and they buy tomatoes all year round as well. So it is changing. I was talking to some young friends last night, some kids who are 16 or so, and one of the big excitements for them, remember they do come from small town, southern Italy. One of the big excitements is going to Brindisi, which is our nearest big town, where there is a McDonald's and they have a Mec. Now, first time he said to me, "Oh, I'm going to go and have a Mec," I couldn't think what he was talking about, but it's as in McDonald's.
Well, I guess it's a novelty, isn't it, really? So, yeah. Angela wants to know what made you just decide to set off for your new adventure in Italy.
Well, do you know, I think I was bored. I've been doing the same thing. I've been living in Oxford for a long time, and I ran a sort of pop-up cookery school there, which is quite hard work. And I just suddenly had this moment. Well, I didn't just suddenly have a moment. I was on the internet. I was meant to be writing, so working, doing something, and I was actually procrastinating and reading the odd story here and there. And suddenly a story came up about a town in the north of Puglia where they were paying people to move there because depopulation is such a big issue in the countryside in Italy. And I don't know, I just had a light bulb moment, thought, I can move, I'm going to move. So 2 weeks later, I was in Italy, in this little village with my two kids, obviously, who thought their mother was bonkers. And it was lovely, this place, but it wasn't the right place for me, but it did then confirm that I wanted to move to Puglia. So really, I spent the next 10, 11 months selling everything up and planning, and here I am.
Wonderful. Bruce had a question, so I'm just trying to find his question. It says, which sort of dishes would Sophie list on her catering business menu?
Well, you can go and see them on trulydelicious.com, but I have, we basically have 4 different menus, 2 Italian, 2 Puglian, and one sort of general Mediterranean, Italian, and then Middle East, Moroccanish one. But on my truly Puglian menu, and a truly, I'm sure you all know what a truly is, but just think, trullo, sorry, is, but just in case you don't, a trullo is the very iconic cone-shaped building that we get all around the countryside, particularly in the area I'm in Puglia. And they're old agricultural buildings, but now a lot of them have been transformed into homes. But my truly Puglian menu has antipasto, which varies, and it's my favorite bit of the meal. So you might have polpette di pane in there. You might have, or one another favorite dish, frigidelli al pomodoro, which are little green peppers with cooked with tomato and garlic, things like that. And the really, really nice one of my favorite dishes called zucchini alla poverella, which is a fried zucchini, a fried courgette salad. They're cut very thin and brown, almost but not quite burnt. That's gorgeous. And then on the main course, we have for primo orecchiette al cime di rapa. Cime di rapa, a particular kind of green leafy vegetable that grows down here. That's another real classic Puglian dish. I'm trying to think what else we have on. We have all kinds of lovely things on there. Lovely thing. I've got a complete blank about anything else. Orecchiette alla manduriana. So orecchiette again, but with little meatballs cooked in primitivo wine lovely wine down here. Primitivo, it's pretty damn good.
Getting a lot of feedback from a lot of people commenting how lovely the polpetti are as well in the chat.
Oh, I'm excited.
Which is good. So some people obviously have been cooking it, which is great. Orlando, you on the subject of the polpetti, you had a question regarding the sunflower oil. You're on mute still. You need to unmute yourself.
There we go. Yes, I tried to ask how deep the oil was. It's a very mundane question, I'm afraid, Sophie, but how deep does it cover them completely? Because you can do deep fat frying in relatively shallow conditions or proper deep conditions. That was all it was.
Oh, it's deep fat frying, but in relatively shallow amounts. So it's probably, I don't know how much. So it's probably only about an inch and a half, I should think, of sunflower oil.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
John, you were saying you've obviously been to Puglia, but although you missed Sophie, do you want to ask the question yourself?
Well,
hey Sophie, it's John Finch here. I was due to see you in Puglia this summer, but unfortunately, our good friend Alistair introduced, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. Well, we did make it to Puglia, but we didn't manage to hook up. I was just wondering if you'd had the chance to try ricci whilst you've been over there.
oh yes.
What do you think of them? How do you describe the flavour to anyone that's not had them?
The ricci are sea urchins, for that who don't know. I'm assuming that, yeah, there's something else that's called something very similar, but anyway, yes, I love them. I absolutely, and it's oh my god, it's lovely here. So I love going off to the coast, which, and it's one of the great things about Puglia. Nowhere's very far from the coast because we've got sea on both sides going down. And you get sea urchins, and I love the small little cafes that you get by the seaside, which are nothing. It's got just a few plastic tables, plastic cups, which is a bit of a pain, which is a shame. And then you can sit down, you can order a plate of, I don't know, a dozen sea urchins or pasta with ricci. Oh, love it. Or yeah. My favourite thing is roasted octopus, or grilled octopus sandwiches, puccia, which are just great.
Ooh, lovely.
White wine was nice here. What's not to like?
Hopefully see you soon, Sophie.
Hope so. You'll have to come back again, John. We will.
We will. We're there every year. I'll make sure we do next time.
Excellent.
Thank you for today. It was great.
Thank you. Have we got anybody? Hello? Oh, it's gone very quiet.
No, sorry, I've unmuted myself. Laura wants to know if you go to people's homes to cook, or do you prepare at home and bring?
We go to people's homes to cook. So we cook in the Trullo or in their homes or whatever, or villas, which is great because we get to snoop around a lot in the nicest possible way. But we and it's fascinating. We've been to some very simple places, which we love, very laid back. We've been to some dead posh places as well, so we get a good view of the interiors of Puglia, which you don't see otherwise. Yeah, so that's what we do. So we lug everything with us and cook it all there.
Jenny, I think you perhaps ought to tell us about this octopus. I'm now curious myself.
Well, the grilled octopus sandwiches?
No. Well, Jenny's saying, she goes, I'll never forget the octopus you cooked on a disposable barbecue at the Arvin Find Your Culinary Voice course many years ago.
Golly, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was you and Alistair Hendy teaching Find Your Culinary Voice. You had a lovely little doggy who you were training for Guide Dogs for the Blind. And we went on a little field trip to the local market, and you bought some octopus and you really quickly cooked it on a disposable barbecue. And I was like, oh my God, this is a revelation. It was delicious.
Who was speaking?
Jenny Hamilton.
Jenny
Hamilton.
No, yeah, I do remember, and it was quite a long time ago, though, wasn't it? But yeah, I remember, and it was wonderful, and the squid was wonderful, incredibly tender.
Yes, it was
and
delicious.
So I can't remember what I did with the octopus. I think I just Well, with octopus, I usually cook it first, but and squid was, I don't. And it's freshness and speed. That's what it's about. High freshness, speed, boom, in, out. And I do. That's one of the things that I have on our antipasto menu here is just squid cooked, marinated with lemon and olive oil and chili and garlic and sometimes lemon zest and yeah, and then cooked at vastly high heat for seconds, really, and it's wonderful. The seafood here is it's not cheap. Seafood here is very expensive actually, but it is so good and so fresh, and we love it.
Sophie, by the way, Jenny is a tremendous credit to you because she did indeed find her culinary voice, and she's written many books with others on the go. So whatever you did at Arvin, you did great work there.
It was the most enjoyable. I did a couple of courses. There took me 2 or 3, and it was really enjoyable. It was wonderful being tucked away in the Devon countryside. It rained, I think, nearly every time I went there, but it was beautiful, and it was, well, for us as the teachers as well. We met many inspiring people. So both teachers and pupils, I think, got something out of it. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted that we kicked off something there.
Anne wants to know whether your children are still with you in Italy, and if so, how do they find it?
No. They both have their own lives. So no, they're not. My son has been over a few times, and he likes it, but he thinks my little town is very boring. He's 26, so yeah, he's probably right for a 26-year-old. There's not much to do. For me, it's lovely. And my daughter is far, far away in Mexico. She lives in Mexico, so I'm hoping to introduce her to Chile and Miss Apica at Christmas, but these days, who knows whether she'll be able to get here or not.
Sophie, Sam, I've had a question which has come to me, I think, but from Jan Stevens, which I was trying to forward to you, Sam, but I failed to. So I'll read it out from Jan Stevens, which is, are you planning to open a cook school or continue with mainly online courses? And Jan says she's going to fry the polpette later. Looking forward to them. Thank you.
Excellent. No, we're not reopening the UK based cookery school. That has gone. I think the vast bits of it swept away by COVID and lockdown. But we do, as well as online classes, we do if people are here, if they come on Puglia for a holiday, we will do a cooking class in their chulo, in their villa, or wherever they're staying, as long as there's a kitchen.
Orlando wants to know if you're going to plan a TV series.
Well, I'm talking about one. We haven't got very far yet, but we're working on it.
That'd be fab.
It would be great. Puglia is immensely photogenic, and oh, I can. Can you hear the dogs? There are lots of dogs here. But yeah, Puglia is incredibly photogenic, and it would be lovely to do something here. But I'd really like to do something which wasn't just, isn't it pretty, isn't it beautiful, isn't it perfect? Because Puglia is a real place, and it's not perfect. There's a lot of issues here, so it's not all perfect. But I don't want to do all warts and all, but I'd like to do a series with some warts and all in it, to balance.
Yeah, lovely. Has anyone got any other questions they'd like to ask?
I was just going to say one thing that I got from Sophie's book, which I found so interesting, which helped me to unlock the Italian problem to some extent, which is, Sophie, you said that the outsides of the towns tend to be all horrible, and the best, but you need to get into the town to find out what it's really like. And of course, that's why I went around Sicily in dismay, looking at all these horrible outskirts to towns, because I didn't go into them.
You probably missed some wonderful things, but it's true. I think nearly every town in Italy has a very ugly suburbs, and it's because they've expanded fast, and that lovely central bit that was built in, maybe medieval, maybe 18th, 19th century, is hidden there in the middle. And I was talking to some people I was working with the other day, and they were staying near a town called Calovigno near here. they would say, "Oh, it's so horrible," and then eventually halfway through their holiday, they got to the middle, and she said, "Oh, it's wonderful. It's beautiful." So most, not all, but most places have a charming bit somewhere. But you know, even if you go to Florence, has an ugly exterior. Every but kind of, it's much the same in the UK, though, isn't it? Maybe slightly less extent.
Yeah, I mean, it's how things are developed. It's a development problem, isn't it? And Italy seems to have developed in that way, whereas in Britain, of course, it's very patchy. We've got horrible bits, but we've got some that have been very carefully developed, haven't we?
Yes, but it's an issue that, well, I guess because things, you know, in the 20th century, things changed a lot. It was building, you know, in the past there wasn't much town planning, so I'm sure in my for instance, my little town of Celje, they kind of started in the middle and then built outwards. That's actually exactly what they're doing now. But we look at those buildings from the past and think, oh, aren't they gorgeous? Aren't they charming? And the modern buildings have less appeal for us. Maybe, Orlando, maybe in 100, 150 years time, if the big blocks of flats and that rather sort of square, ugly concrete look is still there, maybe people will be looking at those and saying, oh, God, they're so beautiful. Oh, didn't people know how to live in the 20th and 21st century? Maybe.
And do the Italians prefer living in new accommodation or old accommodation?
Well, I think it varies. A lot of young people would rather be in a new flat, in a modern flat where everything functions. You know, in the middle of town, things are, or in the very rural things don't work quite often. So, you know, it's like my Wi-Fi and my electricity today, gone, which is why I'm at a friend's house. And things do go wrong. But on the other hand, I have to say I love being in the centre of town. And yeah, but so I think people do like a nice modern house, which works, and where things are less likely to go wrong.
Have you got that problem that we have in rural Britain, where all the youngsters go to the city?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I mean, there is very little work for young people around here in Puglia. In the summer months, they can get jobs working in cafes and bars and restaurants and hotels. So there's quite a lot of work in the summer, and then very, very little in the winter. Somebody once said to me that that Puglia, and I think, you know, all of the south of Italy, really only has two seasons. They have summer and not summer. And it just divides in those two. And we're just now, October the 1st is the beginning of not summer. And everything. So last week, you could still go out at lunchtime and get a good meal in lots of restaurants on the coast or whatever. I bet you from this weekend, half of those will be closed. Maybe more than half of them. And as it gets seaside.
When were they open? Were they open in April?
No, June. May a bit, June is when they begin to get going, really. A lot of them. I mean, again, in my town, we do have restaurants. I mean, the restaurants are open all through the winter, but all the outdoor tables are gone. They'll only be open in the evening. They won't be open at lunchtime. And yeah, it'll be very. It's much more limited offering. But they're still lovely. They are still lovely, and they're still charming. And the annoying thing in the winter is, although there are far fewer people, and there are fewer tables because you can't go outside. So you have to book on a Friday or a Saturday night or a Sunday night in the winter. You have to book more than you have to in the summer. So paradoxical, really.
Bruce wonders if the food in Puglia is influenced by other areas or regions, such as Greece, North Africa, or including and such as Greece, North Africa, such as a Sicilian cuisine is.
Yes, very, very much so. I mean, Puglian cuisine is very different to Sicilian. I mean, obviously there are crossovers and connections. We're not that far from Sicily, but yes, so Puglia has been occupied, taken over by the Greeks, by Arabs, by the French, by the Spanish, they've all lusted after Puglia and grabbed it at various points throughout history. And you do get traces of that in the food. So there are, and you get traces of that in the architecture as well. So a lot of the small towns in the centre or small villages are painted white, and they do look very like Greek villages. And you get that in the food as well. When you buy a sandwich here, 9 times out of 10, it'll be in something called a puccia, which is a kind of round, flattish bread. And it's basically a piece of bread, but round and slightly thicker. But it's got that hole in the centre. Very, very similar. And I know if you go further down south, you get, well, I haven't been there, and this is one of the journeys I'm planning for the winter. But a friend brought me back a blood sausage that you get further south, where the food is much more spice. And I don't mean just with chilies. They use chilies a lot here anyway, but it's more spice in the sense of the real sense of the word spice. So they use more spices. And this blood sausage, which was delicious actually, was flavored with cinnamon and chili, which I was really surprised by. Yeah, it was great. So you get these traces of Greek food, of Arabic food, and they're all kind of melded in. And one of the other dishes that I discovered, which I love, and you get it in other parts of Italy as well, but is a lamb stew that is enriched at the end with a mixture of eggs and lemon, which like apple lemon. And you get that here as well.
Have you taken a ferry to Albania? Because you can nip over to Albania, can't you?
You can nip over to Albania. Yep, no, on my list. Do you know, I've done one stupid thing, well, wonderful stupid thing here, is I got pets, I got cats. So I still haven't done any slightly longer trips like going over to Albania or wherever, but it will come, it will come.
Has anyone got any further questions? Oh, hang on. John saying, have you tried the local favourite cavallo? I don't know whether I pronounced that badly.
Yes.
What is cavallo for those like myself who have no idea?
Horse meat.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
is it popular as in and donkey as well? Sorry, folks, but it's true. Yeah, I mean, they're nice. When I'm in the supermarket, in fact, I remember thinking one of the first times I went to the supermarket, and I was looking at the meat section, and it has this thing saying puledro. I think it's puledro. I said, oh, what's that? And I looked up, and it was full. I can't buy it. I can't actually bring myself to cook it. I've eaten it though.
What? It was what?
Oh, in young horse.
Oh.
Wow. Well, you know, I get it's part of their culture. Yeah, I'm sure they breed them like we breed sheep or pigs or anything else. So, any other questions, people?
In that case, it falls to me to give the most enormous thank you to Sophie. It's been fascinating, but also glorious and sunny to be with you for this hour. And we all are so jealous of your fabulous adventure. And we love your book. And we're waiting for the TV series, please. So an enormous round of thanks for kicking off the autumn season of the Guild of Food Writers in such great style.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. And can I just say to everybody, come down to Puglia. Come to it. It's a lovely, lovely place. It's lovely in the autumn, beautiful in the spring, so when it rains. And come to Celje, West Africa, and have a coffee with me or a drink.
Fabulous.
Oh,
thank you.
We'd love to. Thank you so much. And on that note, everyone, I am going to close the meeting. So thank you for coming, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you, Sophie.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.